we are recording now. So for the benefit of the people in the webinar right now, remember that if you use the microphone, if we do speak to you, that will get picked up on the recording. So just be aware of that in case there are any conversations going on around you. You would rather they were not recorded. What you write in the text chat doesn't appear on the recording. With that in mind, and also to try and help me make sure I cover everything that's put in the chat box, I'll probably read out what's in the chat box as much as I can. If you'd rather I didn't read out what you put in the chat box, you can set your chat setting to private, and I'll take that as a hint that you don't want me to read it out. But most people in these webinars tend to keep their chat settings set to entire audience. It's nice to collaborate. It's nice to see what other people are saying. So that would be my preference, to keep them on there if you can. What else do I need to tell you about the kind of housekeeping? We've got a housekeeping slide. I'll jump to that in a second. But for the benefit of people watching the recording, it is now Friday the 13th, unlucky for some, just after 12:30 in November. And the session for everybody is on what's on the screen now. I've got some tips to share with you on living with your word count and staying within your word count, and making sure you get that crack. That's going to be the plan. The idea is by the end of the session, you go away with some tools, some strategies, maybe made some notes on how you can look at your work and go, actually, I think I can strip out some words. I'm going to do some practical examples up on the screen. I'm going to put some slides up. I'm going to put some, I'm going to actually actively work on the slides and delete some words and show you why I'm deleting the words, and do it like a proper, like a workshop, so you can see what I'm actually doing. Right, getting lots of bings as in my earphone as people join the session. So welcome everyone. If I haven't had a chance to talk to you yet, we haven't started as such. We're just kind of setting the scene. So welcome aboard, everyone. It's great to see so many people have joined this webinar. That's lovely to see. What I think I'll do, I think I'll keep running these webinars on in succession, so in a bit of a sequence. So next one I'm going to do is on making sure we hit the assessment terms and understand the terms in assessment, and then I might come back around to doing the webinar again on webinar referencing, and then maybe a month or so from now I'll come back and do this webinar again and have another go. So you can come back and revisit and get involved in that, or we can pick up new people to join us. Who knows? Hopefully everybody will benefit. Let's get started. Right, let's have a look at our first slide. Hope you're all well, by the way. I hope everyone is staying safe and coping as well as you can be given the lockdown. But let's do the housekeeping stuff. So on your screen now, you should have the standard issue. If you've been in one of these webinars with me before, you've seen this before. Standard stuff, helping you to understand how to control your webinar interaction. Box on the left, that's talking about microphones. Most people are happy with those now. You know, most people are using video calls, webinars more and more given the various lockdowns. Screen in the middle there, talking about hand up. We're going to be using the hand up icon today to help me know that I've got the pace right in terms of how I'm presenting and when we're presenting. So hit your hand up icon now. Let's just check everybody can find their hand up icon, that box in the middle on the screen there I'm talking about now. Put your hand up. Let's make sure you can find it, and that helps me make sure I've got everything on the screen I need as well. Hands up, that's it, click it. So if you're using a desktop, you have this kind of whitish looking dashboard. If you're using an iOS, you'll have this kind of grey band. I've got a few people got their hand up there, so I hope you're okay. If you're not, if you can't find it, let me know in the chat box. We'll help you out. We'll pop your hands down for now. We can always use a chat box as well, which brings us onto our box on the right, chat box. I think everyone's pretty familiar with those by now. People have used chat boxes. Lots of people talking to me in the chat. I would take it as read. We're all okay with that. So that's the housekeeping done. Virtual housekeeping. Takeaways. I'm having a takeaway. I don't know about you. That's not a point. We're not thinking about our tea. We're thinking about what we're going to, the agenda for this session. Hopefully you can see the agenda for the session on the top there. Right. First session, first thing I'm going to talk about, we don't want workouts, do we? We want to keep writing forever. Yeah, who wants one? Well, let's have a little bit of a chat about that, and let's sort of gain some agreement on why we would need one. I'm going to try and take a positive, sort of put a positive twist on why we need a word count, so we can take this down a positive path if we can do that. That's what I'm going to try and do with that first section. So just a quick chat from me on number 1. Number 2, we're going to find out a little bit more about what's going on with you. And then number 3, what I want to do there is I'm going to number 3, going to go through a few slides really quickly just to set the scene, get everybody to the same point, so we all understand what is and what isn't included in the word count. Then we'll do that before I get to the bulk of the session, number 4, when I'm going to actually do this practically, looking at some passages and ripping out some words and giving you some tips. Then we'll wrap it all up at the end on number 5. How's that sound? Anybody got anything they want to add to the agenda? Anybody got any burning questions right now they want to get out before I get started? Type that in the chat box now, or if you do have a question, don't wait for me to stop talking. Just pop it in the chat box, and if I don't see it, start waving, start typing the message in some more. Just grab my attention. Nobody's putting it in the chat box. I'll take it you're all happy. We'll move on. Let's do that. Let's have a look. So, oh yeah, slide here. Of course, remember we're getting a few people sort of coming on messages and saying, well, how can I do CPD? What CPD can I do? Given that you can't, we're all on lockdown. So add this to your CPD. That's why that slide's there. And if you want to know how to get to the fancy new CPD records that we have cloud-based, I can show you that at the end of the session. But make sure you put this. You've done an hour's CPD today, so log that down. What are we up to? Icebreaker. Oh, I missed my first slide. My first slide, where's that gone? Was going to be about why we need a word count, wasn't it? Why don't we want one? Why do we want one? That's a good start. Right, for me, I guess you get to see what your thoughts are on this. If you want to comment on what I'm about to say, please go ahead. But what I'm thinking is, if you have a 2,000 word limit, okay, how is that a good thing? How can that possibly be a positive thing? One of the things I like to take from this is, if you've been asked by a line manager, by a client, somebody in the real world that wants you to give them a project or a report, they aren't going to want thousands and thousands and thousands of words. Rarely they're going to want that. Dissertation, all right, maybe, but not so much a report or some information. So for me, getting used to working within a word count, the way I'm going to show you how to keep your point, but do it in more succinct language, is going to be better for your audience, and therefore that'll be better in the professional stage, because people will be able to understand your point that bit quicker, I guess, and get to your point more in a more straightforward fashion than having to read through a larger document. So that's the kind of positive twist I want to put on this. If we can get a word count better, lower, it's going to help you get your point across more out there in the real world. You'll get used to doing it more. Hope I've convinced you. Let's try this anyway. So my icebreaker was to find out a little bit about your current word count situation. I just wanted you to type in that and tell me what you're up to. So a couple of you have already done that, so that's brilliant. So let's find out if you want to expand on where you're up to with your current word count. Have you got a particular amount of words? Are you happy enough? Do you need to strip out 50 words? Do you need to strip out 500 words? How are you feeling about word counts right now? Do you love them? Do you hate them? The bit I said before about taking a positive twist on word counts, is that nonsense? What do you think? Let me know. I'll just have a little drink of my water while you're typing. Read a few of these comments out for the benefit of my memory in the recording. Let's have a look. Joanne says, doing DVP, dividing into 3 parts and way over each. So as much, I jumped in, as much, so much want to get it in, and word count is really low. And that's a good point what Joanne's sort of alluding to there. If you've got 2,000 word essay and you've got 4 criteria, one way to do it is to say, right, I'm going to do 500 words per criteria, because you get the same amount of marks per criteria when it comes to assessment. So that is a key point to remember with when you're working with word counts. It's no good using half your word count on one question. You've got 3 questions left to go, because you don't get, there's a ceiling on how many, how much you can, there's a ceiling on how much you can pass one assessment criteria. Let's see what other people got. Siren's agreeing with Joanne, fantastic. Kitty 600 words over. Lena's looking at word count for CHR. So that's for those who don't know, that's the second unit on the level 5 HRM program. She's currently she's 94 over. Okay, so almost there. Good stuff. Maritza's Marzi, I think that is. Sorry, I read that wrong. Need to strike a balance between providing enough content to demonstrate my knowledge and being brief. Exactly. Fantastic point. Chidi is 400 words over. What else have we got? Excuse me, Curtis on CHR 2. Oh, great, we've got someone doing a different program here, level 3 CIPD. Most of the reports I do a couple hundred words over, have to revisit and struggle to bring them down. Victoria, right. Let's see what we can do about that. Stephanie CHR as well, and just submitted and had to over 1,000 words. And if you submitted over 1,000 words, maybe stay on the end of the session. I can tell you what's going to happen with that if you've submitted and you're over the word count. We can look at that for you. Carmen says, oh, seem to be over. Isn't that the case? Yes, indeed. Find it challenging to fit in all the information. Yep. Georgina, I approached it to write everything down to cover the points and then condense the word count at the end. I think that's, yeah, that's how I do it. That's how I do it. I'm not saying that's the right way to do it, but yeah, that's the approach I take. 4,000 words over, CHR to condense 3 times, divide the word count into 12 bullet points. Yep, all these kind of things are going to help. Emma says, I meant to get rid of 1,000 words before submitting. I understand. We're good to go. Well, that's good. Get a bit of a feel for it. Get a bit of a feel for where you're up to with word counts. Yeah, and it's nice to see that, you come along to the webinar and it's not just you. It's definitely a skill, definitely a consideration. So let's have a look at it. Let's try doing it. So now I'm going to move on to my kind of quick fire slides where we just set the scene, get the bar, make sure everyone's on the same understanding. So I'm going to fire through these ones pretty quick now. So what is and isn't included? We have, I've obviously underlined what is included at the top. You're going to see the underline move across as I flip through these pages now. That's what is included. So if you want, think about it, if you want the assessor to read it, if you want the assessor to count it in your answer, then first those words have to be counted in your word count. So for example, if you write a load of part of your answer that you want the assessor to read, but put it in your appendices somewhere, technically the assessor isn't going to read it. Okay, so it's got to be counted in there. Main body of your work, you probably know that one. Let's move on. So what is included? Headings are included. So use that to your advantage. So when you make a heading about something you're about to do, you can use that to your advantage. Make sure you don't repeat what you put in your heading, okay? Because I think that's probably why headings are counted, because often people will almost put part of that answer in their heading. So make sure your headings are counted in there as well, strictly speaking, and keep those as brief as you can. Isn't included. These things aren't included, so contents pages aren't included. You can see my example of one I cut from a piece of work I did. One of the reasons that the contents page isn't included, that doesn't give anybody information. That's any information about my answer. It's not my analysis, it's not my evaluation, so therefore it doesn't count, or it shouldn't count towards my contents page, towards my word count. The amount of different pages I've used, the amount of different sections I have, shouldn't contribute to the word count, shouldn't affect my answer as such. Appendices aren't counted in your word count either. So a good place to store raw data if you want to put examples of questionnaires, if you've got, you know, huge Excel spreadsheets with just numbers in it, but you want to put it somewhere, if you've got maybe an internal document from your organization that you want to refer to in your main body, pop it in appendices, that's all good. And that with that, that's not your work. And that's one of the things that helps that means that that's not to be counted in the word count. I can try and answer some more questions on that later on if you like. Back to what is included. Tables, graphs, diagrams. If they are your own work, they are counted. Okay, so that is a table I did. So you can see in the boxes, I put my answers. I was contrasting these three different roles in L and D. So those were my words. So fair's fair, that needs to be counted. Now, what's interesting to note is I'm going to flip across here to what isn't included. I also put somebody else's diagram in there. This person called Bursin had a diagram that I wanted to use, but their words aren't counted in my word count. So slight difference there. What the assessor's looking at, the assessor to a point isn't, well, they're not going to mark Mr. Bursin's work, for example, are they? Because it's not Bursin's assessment. So you can see it from that point of view. What the assessor's interested in is my analysis or my narrative, which is at the top of the page. I'm talking about how the whole thing's changing from these different types of learning. Everything's going to that green, learning in the flow of work. That's my point I was trying to make. And to underline that point, I'll pop this diagram in there. So you see I'm underlining my work with someone else's. It's not actually my work, so that assessor isn't going to mark that and read it and count all the words in it. They're interested in what I've got to say about it. So there's the differentiation there. Next one, let's flip across another one. What we've got, what is and isn't included. So what is included, if you do, when you do in-text citations, the actual bit in the quotation marks, this bit about the 9.5 hours that I've got on the screen as an example, that is counted in my word count. Otherwise, and one thing is, otherwise it's open to abuse. I could copy whole sections of a book out. I could copy 3,000 words from a book, put it in my essay, quote it, and there you go, and expect someone to read through 3,000 words and not count it toward the word count. So you couldn't do that. That's not right. So anything you use like that has to be counted. So that will go in my word count because that's part of my argument. What isn't included, let's move across, is the bit about Gutierrez. So that's, if you like, the details about where I got that quotation from. Again, that doesn't need assessing. That's neither here nor there. That's not part of the assessment. If it was part of the assessment, was part of the word count, then that would almost discourage me from reading any documents that were written by multiple authors, because I would want to keep my word count down, and that wouldn't be fair. So different ways to look at it like that, you see what I mean? So the actual bit in the brackets, not counted. Similarly, all the information that goes at the end of your assessment, your reference list, your bibliography, you need both, remember, separate ones. That's just, again, almost like raw data, if you like. It's the address of where I got the quotation from, or the information from. Yeah, your assessor can't read that because, again, that wouldn't be fair. You would potentially end up only quoting from books with really small titles, 2-word titles, to save yourself some work. And you don't want to be doing that. So that's it's raw information. It's not part of your argument. It's not going to be assessed. It's not going to be evaluated. You'd have to do it correctly to make sure your document is acceptable in an academic sense. So there's a right way and a wrong way to do it, but the actual counting of the words is not going to happen. Right, that's me. Moving on. Stephanie says, how can you make it easier not to count the authors in the brackets? Fantastic question from Stephanie. I haven't found an easy answer to that. I'm really sorry. I just have to do it counting manually. It's yeah, I've found no way around it. I can't find any software to do it other than pressing Control and F and searching for brackets, so you can just quickly count down the page how many you've got. Yeah, it's just laborious, that, I'm afraid. Let's see. Delary says, would you count a table with my own evaluation information. Yes, if it's your own information, yes, it's counted. Oh, right. Yeah, all right. Dilari's got questions about the tables. How's that, Dilari? Are you okay with that, Dilara? If it's your information, if it's your word in the table, your words in the table, your information, it's got to be counted. Yeah. Right. How am I doing? So that's about 20 minutes in. Right. Let's get to the bit where I'm going to give you tips now. Is everybody happy for me to move on to actually doing some of this? I'm going to put a passage up on screen and I'm going to take some words out of it. Hand up or a yes in a box if you're happy for me to move on. Okay, great. That's looking good. Right, I shall move on. I'm going to put some words on screen that I wrote. Now, rule one of PowerPoint slides is to only have 6 words on your PowerPoint slide. So I've broken that law today. That's a passage I wrote. Okay, have a read of that passage. Hand up or tell me you've read it. Once you've read it, I'm going to go quiet for a few seconds. Let you read it. Have a look. Hopefully you'll see it's a perfectly understandable passage. Just the kind of thing you would have in an assessment. Nothing wrong with it. Have a read of that for me. Nithya's got a question there. What if I make my own evaluation a table into an image? Yes, if it's your own work, then definitely it needs to be counted because you want the assessor to read it. So yeah, that's only fair that those words are counted. Again, because otherwise, you think about it, you could copy your entire document as an image and go. You can't do that. You still want people to read it. Let me know when you've read that passage. Hopefully you'll see it's perfectly, usable passage. And then we're going to start ripping it apart, see what we can do with it. Yeah, all done. We're getting some good, yeah, right. There we go. Done from Cameron, done from Julie, Cyrene, yeah. Right, okay, good. I'm going to move on. So what I'll do now, broken the rules of having too many words on the page. Just broke it twice. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work through where I've highlighted now. I'm just going to come out of the sort of the what's it called, the presentation. I'm just going to actually go into my slide. So size-wise, if anyone's struggling to see that, if it's not big enough, just let me know and I'll make it a wee bit bigger. So a bit bigger if I do that. There we go. That's better. A little bit bigger anyway. So we're going to do this on this side of the page. There's 81 words. I'm going to see if I can give you some tips, talk you through as I rip out these words on the passage on the right hand side, see how many words we get down to. So bear with me on this one. Watch this. Right. So what I'm going to do is I've got SWOT is an acronym. Woo, how's that gone? SWOT is an acronym that stands for. So what I'm doing there is I'm using two a description. SWOT is an acronym. Okay, so acronym, 4 letters. Now, don't say things that are obvious in your assessments. Okay, it's obvious it's an acronym. Yeah, because it's four letters, capital letters. Okay. Plus, if I get rid of it, if I just delete that, SWOT stands for strengths. So you see what I've done? SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So without that bit in yellow, that sentence still says the same thing. It still puts the same thing across to the reader that SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So just by moving a couple of words, my point is exactly the same. And that's what I'm going to push. That's what you hear me say again and again. When I delete these words out, the point, the not the tense, I suppose, but yeah, the thing I'm trying to get across remains the same. It doesn't alter, even though I'm chopping out words, and that's the target. Okay, so let's try again. A SWOT analysis of 3 words there. I've already mentioned the SWOT analysis in the previous sentence, so if I just change that to it, I've just dropped 3 words. Simple. Okay, I didn't need to say it again. So repetition is a bug to avoid. Okay. Is a tool that can be used in business amongst other things. Now, said it can be used in business. I didn't say it's only used in business. Yeah, I said it can be used in business. So therefore, the implication is it can be used other places as well, amongst other things. Okay. So therefore, by having the word can and amongst other things, I've made the same point. So we get rid of that. It still says the same thing, that it can be used in business. That would implication being it can be used somewhere else. It can be used to evaluate a project or company. Oh, I'm just getting someone's little bit of feedback there, so I just popped you on mute there. It can be used to evaluate a project or company. Okay, right. Well, a project, an evaluation project might take place in a company. Do I really need that in? Okay. Projects happen in companies all the time. Do I need those two words? No. Has it changed the message? No. And it's to use to create constructive goals. I've written there. Constructive goals. That sounds good. And strategies. That sounds good. And that's the pitfall that we fall into with essays a lot. Is we want to write what sounds good, but writing what sounds good, it can often give you superfluous words. Okay. For example, if I remove the word constructive, you're hardly going to have destructive goals. Most of the time. Most of the time, your goals, unless I have that takeaway tonight, most of the time, goals are constructive. So do we need the word? All right. Again, SWOT analysis. I've used those words again. I've got 2 words in there. I'm going to change that for it. Gets out some words. It gathers data about internal issues within a company or a project. There we go. So it gathers data about internal issues within a company. Well, I've already said there are internal issues. Yeah? So we can get rid of that bit, can't we? I could probably get rid of all that, in fact. Everyone got in yellow there. The strengths and weaknesses part. It gathers data about the internal issues. I'm going to get rid of the strengths and weaknesses part as well, because SWOT, if you read my SWOT, you'll see that the strengths and weaknesses are talking about the strength of the thing. If you ever know anything about SWOT and you've used SWOT, you'll see that it has to be internal. And the external issues of the company or the project, because I've mentioned that there's a difference in that this second clause is talking about the external. That implies that the first part of the sentence was talking about the internal. So again, can I just, if I delete that, will it change my point? I think not. And external issues outside of the company or project, opportunities or threats. I've already told you what the opportunities and threats are. I've already talked about them in the top sentence at the beginning. Don't need to talk about them again. It then analyzes this data to inform goals, decisions, and strategies. So is decisions and strategies, is that just a repetition? Can you have a strategy without making a decision? I'm getting rid of it. Okay, I'm leaving it like that. Okay, does that say the same thing? Right. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to take 2 seconds to compare what I started off with 81 words and what I've got on the left. Does right, you're on the left. The new set of words. I'll highlight there so I don't get mixed up. Have I lost any point? Have I lost what I was trying to get across by losing those words? I don't think I have. I think I've still made the same argument. Yeah, regardless of what a SWOT is, I think I've still made the same point. I don't think I've lost any detail. Have a look, see what you think, see if you agree or not. We haven't got a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you're on your phone, you might be able to give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Give me a couple of comments on that then, once you've read it, see what you think. How did it get on? I'm going to put that, whilst you're having to read, it's going to work out how many words are saved there. Let's put that into Word and do a quick word count on it. 54 words now. Let's get rid of that. Okay. So I get much more condensed and makes sense. I've got 54 words now, it turns out. Very helpful. Right, let's do 54 words. So if I get a calculator up on my screen, on the screen that you're looking at, so I don't bore you with sums. If we do, what do? We do 54 divided by 81. So that's 66. Have I just lost 33% of my words? I think I have, according to my maths. So if you've got a 3,000 word essay, and if I was about to say to you, I'll just save you 33%. You work out, but you bite my arm off. Yeah. So have a think about that. Let's do it again. Let's try another one, a little bit more complicated version, okay? Because that's that, and these just give me 2 examples I'm going to do, and then we're going to call this session done. We're going to do a bit more complicated example next. Cyrene said, keeping the sense of the message is key. Great example. Yeah. Let's try it again. Let's move on. I'm going to do this. Press that. Let's get this back up on your screen. All right, there's what we did. There we go. A lot more words on this one. We're going to attack this one as well now, using the same sort of tools, repetition, anything I've already said, anything I've already implied, anything I don't need to repeat. We're going to have and get rid of. Have a read of that. Let me know when you've read that passage. Again, the content is a real exercise we're going to look. Great stuff. Dive's coming with a short question. Joanne's read it. Great. A couple of reds coming in there. Victoria. Short question. If I'm using a table or graph, shall I put in brackets see below, see table below, and would it be counted? Yeah, if you're using a table or graph, table or graphs are great because they demonstrate your point. But yeah, any words in it that you've used, if you want someone to read those words and count them towards your answer, take them into account in your answers, yeah, they've got to be counted. Yeah, a couple of reads coming there. If you're studying CHR, yeah, that's from my CHR work, so don't be copying my work. I think it's CHR and Heritage Textiles, yeah. But yeah, Julie's ready. Katie's done. Wonderful. Okay, so lots of people done. Right, let's get a look. Let's get a look at it. So I'm going to chop out a load of words. And let's see again that the idea will be chop out the words and not lose the context, not lose the points I'm trying to make. I'll let you be the judge of that. Hopefully you'll agree. Now let's see. So at the top I've got, is that okay on your screen? Yeah, in the top highlighted in yellow, it says, in terms of heritage textile, I initially thought that the deliberate strategy would be best. Now, what I've done there is I've almost described what I've done in my essay. Okay. Don't describe what you're doing. Just do it. Yeah. Okay. Now, so the fact that I've done it and disregarded it, yes, that's not going to contribute to my answer. Okay, so anything you've done, your process you've been through, it's not really going to gain you any marks. That, so we'll get rid of it. Okay, it may seem that I deliberately first for HT. The other thing I've done there, rather than keep writing a name of a company, in this case Heritage Textiles, shorten that to HT now. Now, yeah, Heritage Textiles, 2 words, HT is 1 word. Okay, every time I write it, I'd save myself a word. They are well established with defined roles and departments and an understanding of what is required for them to be successful. Now, this sentence, they are well established and with defined roles. Okay, now, what does in this instance, what does well established with defined roles mean? Well, it probably means that they have an understanding of what is required to make them successful. So therefore, I'm saying the same thing twice in one sentence, because you can't be well established with defined roles. unless you have an understanding of what is required. Do you see what I mean? I've made the same point. So what I'm going to do is get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of it up to there. Because I've already said it. That's the key. Don't say it twice. And it's interesting because in conversation, you often say things twice. I've said don't say things twice about 4 times in the last breath, because you do when you're talking. Don't do it on the text. Just say it once in text. The weakness identified for them operationally. Again, I've talked about what I did there. I've identified this. Well, again, of course you've identified it. Of course you identified it, Gary. You've put it in your document, so you don't need to tell me you've identified it. Yeah, of course it's operationally for them. You talk about the way this company works. Again, we don't need those words. That's already given that I've identified it, and I'm talking about them operationally. So anything that's, again, describing what I've done, or anything that's obvious is part of the nature of the work you're doing, in this case operationally, you can get rid of it. Largely stems to the antiquated working, a lack of IT literacy, and digital embracing, a retired workforce, and people being stuck in their ways. Okay. So I've got, and people being stuck in their ways, unwilling to change. So is people being stuck in their ways and unwilling to change, are those the same things? Yep, they're the same things, aren't they? Again, I've repeated the same point. That's probably needs another word in there. Retiring workforce and people who are being unwilling to change. Get rid of that, because I already said that. So at the beginning of the sentence, again, conversationally, people say so a lot just to kind of punctuate what they're saying, but it's just another word. If I remove the word so from that sentence still works. Let's get rid of it. Just on to my next point. Yeah, full stop, on to the next point. Don't need the word so. Whilst the strategy would keep them focused. Well, yeah, of course I'm talking about them. Of course you're talking about them, Gary. You're not talking about anyone else. We're discussing these people, this organisation. So I'm going to get rid of that word. Whilst the deliberate strategy would keep focus, I'll probably change it to the word focus rather than focused. It may mean they become stuck on those particular outcomes. Particular word like so or also. Lots of different extraneous words like that. Actually, you don't need that. They're just spare words. Yeah, we can get rid of those, because if I get rid of the word particular, the sentence will still read the same. If you're using Word to write your documents, I find a lot of the time that I think it's a green highlight underneath. I'm colorblind. I'm pretty sure it's green. You get a green highlight if you've used words you don't need to. It recommends you can delete words out, so that will help you do what I've just done there. It may mean they become stuck on those outcomes and miss an opportunity for growth and change. Now, growth and change. Can you have growth without change? Can you have change without growth? Again, have I got those same things? I could debate which one of those two I want to keep in there, but I'm not going to keep them both in there, because I think they're mutual. Yeah, I think it's the same thing. We could argue which one to keep, but yeah, I'm getting rid of one of them. I think we don't need to know what you're thinking, Gary, because we can see what you're thinking. It's on this piece of paper, so you don't need to use those 2 words. Save yourself 2 words. I think certain departments, it's a bit like particular. It's just a word I don't need. If I get rid of the certain, that sentence is still going to look the same. If departments have discipline and focus. If certain departments have different discipline and focus, yeah, because I've said departments is a plural sense. Don't need that word. If departments have a discipline and focus and they're clear on their end goals, you probably spotted this already, and are clear on their end goals. So if you've got discipline and focus, you'll be clear on your end goals. So again, I've said the same thing twice. I can get rid of one or two of those elements. No, one or two of them. One or the other of those elements I can get rid of, and the sentence will say the same thing. If departments have discipline, and focus. If the departments will change all that, I'm going to get rid of 5 words there and not alter the point of the sentence. There we go. If departments are clear on their end goal and how to get to there, deliberate. Maybe is the same as particular or certain. Which one is it, Gary? Say it or don't say it. The assessor's interested in what I've got to say. So they want to see what I've got to say. So let's be a little bit more confident about that and get rid of the maybe. Also, don't need the word also. They should also be encouraged to think of. The point of the sentence is still there. Different ways to get there and be confident with uncertainty. In short, I think, yeah, 4 words there I don't need. Again, nice in conversation. Yeah, it gives a little bit of punctuation to it, but it's not needed. I can be quite pointed in what I've written and still get the point across. If I delete those 4 words, does that sentence suffer? Not on paper, it doesn't. So I'm getting rid of that. Adopting a bit of both. Yeah, you can't adopt all of both things. You can only adopt a bit of both things. Yeah, a bit of both of these approaches. So again, a bit of 3 words I don't need. You see what I mean? You got to think about your words like that. Think about the text, because sometimes we write words we just don't need. We can delete. Don't need. A bit of these approaches. Adopting both of these approaches. If I delete that, will I lose anything? Will the point still be the same? Adopting both approaches, if monitored and measured, could deliver unexpected results and prompt the change they need. Yeah, changing that to needed straight away. 2 words into 1. Get rid of 2 words, replace it with 1. Whilst empowering heritage textiles to feel responsible. In this instance, I was talking about one particular organisation. We know which organisation you're talking about. We're not talking about any other organisations or any other employees. So I'll save myself 2 words there. We'll get rid of 2 words. So same again. I'm going to do the sums. There's 184 words on the left. I'm going to see how many is on the right. And if you have a read of those two sides again now, have a look at those. Have I kept the same point? Yeah, have I made the same argument? Has my argument diminished at all because I've got rid of any of the words? Have a look. You have read those. Let me know when you've done reading. Type comments in what you think, and I'll do some sums. Okay, 130. Oops. Oh, got 130 words now. 30. Right, get my calculator. 184 divided by. No, it's wrong way around. Divided by 184. That's wrong. All the sums are wrong. Let's have a look. 130 divided by 184. That should give me. There we go. 70. Right, 7. I've got rid of 30% again. I think by doing that. 30% again. So if you've got a 2,000 word essay, I've just saved you 600-700 words by just doing that process. Okay, let's see. Julie says this has been very helpful. Lunch break is over. Good luck with the course, everyone. Thank you, Julie. Right, I'll make sure you can find the recording in case there's any. What when we do the summary, for example. Georgina says it's a change of thinking when structuring sentences, and remember that some of what you say is assumed, implied by the assessor. Yes, it's already assumed, it's already implied, you've already mentioned it. Yeah. Any other comments on that? What do you think of that? Have I lost anything? Are there any deep concerns that? And no, Gary, answer's different now. Let's see. Lucy says, where will the recording of this be, as I missed the start? No worries, Lucy. I'm going to put the recording on the event. If you hit the events calendar in the top of the community there, all the events are listed. You have to press the past events button. I'll put the recording in there. Also, what I'll do is wherever it is in the forums where I've mentioned it, I'll put it in there as well. And actually, what I'll do, yeah, that's what I'll do as well. You should be able to find it. And if you can't find it, then just drop me a line, and I'll get it to you. Let's see. Siren says, I think I would go by basic sentences to just make the point. Yeah, so basic sentences, almost blunt sentences. Yeah, just points. It doesn't have to be a narrative. You're not writing a sort of book that someone would enjoy reading. You're writing a report. Bang, bang, bang. These are what's happening. Joanne says, I think it's too easy to waffle to make it sound more pleasant to read. Yeah, that's it. Good to know we can more to the point. Yep. I think that it requires a skill to know how to cut out those words which are not needed. We usually tend to add too many words. Exactly. It's great way of staying under the word count. Thank you so much. Good. I mean, even if you look at some of what you've put in the chat box there, some of the things that you guys have said, I can see you've said that in a sentence before already. See, yeah, we just as humans, we do it. Yeah. So it's interesting. Yeah, it's good. Let's see. Stephanie says, if a text quote is too long, can we use if it's not needed? Absolutely, you can use those little dots. Yes, you can do that. Right, I have a summary slide now where I'm going to put it up and try and put what I did there into text so that if you wanted to make any notes, you could. So here we go. The top one, of course, that's the top one we went through to make sure you're aware of what is and isn't included. Now, attached to the session in the materials box on your desktop, the dashboard, you'll see in the materials box, there's a document. Now, there's a document there from the CIPD that talks about what is and isn't included in the word count. So you've got the sort of straight from the horse's mouth, if you like, where I got it from to say what isn't included, so you can use that, and that will be attached to the email that you'll get post the webinar as well. So going through what I did, have a little look at what on the rest of that box there, stating the obvious. Yeah, we've talked about that. If you're talking about an organization and we already know you're talking about that organization, you don't have to keep mentioning the fact that it's called, in this instance, Heritage Textiles or whatever it is. You can make sure you avoid doing that. Repetition, yeah, make sure you don't make the same point twice. We do it in conversation, don't need to do it here. Assessor can reread your sentence, okay? By saying it twice, it doesn't make it any clearer to the assessor. Yeah, they can read it. Fancy words, I don't know, do we need fancy words? Can we get rid of fancy words? Yeah, so what we're kind of saying about our reading style, can you just use? Sometimes fancy words obviously do a better job, fancy words. Being more eloquent, I guess, having better terminology sometimes can save you a lot of words, so it's worth thinking of that. Conversation style, as I mentioned there, it doesn't need to be that way when you're writing it down. Describing what you've done, I think this, I've done that, I've had a look at that, I've evaluated this. Yeah, that's great. I know that because you're about to write it all down in your assessment. Unnecessary words. So yes, I mentioned the maybes, the so's, the actuallys, the particulars. The in particular is another one. 2 words you don't need in there, and Word will underline those often. The modern versions of Word will underline those to let you know which ones you can. I'll give you suggestions on which ones you can get rid of. Merge words, I use less words, so things like where I said they something about needing focus, they focused, or something. I've changed it to needed, something like that. Anyway, I got rid of two words and made it 1 word. Have a look if you can do that anyway. And don't repeat what you put in the headings. Don't repeat what you put in the headings. So if you almost introduce your answer, if you almost start talking about your answer, yeah, if you sort of put at the top of your answer, your title is list of pros and cons of such a function, make sure you don't then put in your text, here's a list of pros and cons of this function. Yeah, you've already written that, and you've already, and you've already spent some words on that, so don't repeat what's in your headings. That's tricky to get right as well, because it feels nice to want to just reiterate what you've already said. So sometimes you've got to be almost quite cutting with your own words. Right, you can see here, I can hear people binging out, so I think people are leaving, and I think that is my last slide. Yeah, there it is. There's my last slide. So, right, let's find out. A couple of questions for you. Write something in the box if you want me to go back and have a look at it. If not, write something in the box that you're taking away from the session. Say goodbyes, and then I'll wish you a good afternoon. Let's find out what you're taking away from the session. Let's find out if you've got any other questions. I'm going to stay online for a little while. I'm going to stop recording, and we're going to leave it as that. What I'll do is, but yeah, don't forget, folks. Pop this in your. Mine's a little bit slow now. Pop this in your sleeve. If you want to know where I got that from, stick around and I'll show you how to get that. Adds up all your CPD for you, keeps your number handy, keeps it handy. Really good for a program, just as acceptable. Let's see. Oh, and if anybody isn't already with me, somebody mentioned, was it Kurt who mentioned, found out about this on LinkedIn. There's my LinkedIn profile, just in case you want to stay in touch that way. Let's see. Victoria's got to go. Yeah, no problem, Victoria. Really helpful, wonderful. Stephanie's learned not to use fancy words. That's one. Yeah, but yeah, I said don't use them, then I said do use them. I think, yeah, I think there's a compromise, isn't there? Yeah, don't use them for the sake of using them, but use them where they can reduce your word count. I suppose reduce, yeah, is a better word than saying cut down. It's one word instead of two. It's things like that. That's a good example I thought of on my toes. I think I got away with that. Nobody noticed. Louise said, this has been so helpful. I definitely feel more confident cutting out the pointless stuff. Great. Wonderful. Charlotte says, I was advised by Lynn, one of the facilitators, that a contents page will be included in my workout for CHR. Is that right? No, that's not right. Let me know. Get me in on the email conversation, and it could be, Lynn's understood a different context or something. So let me know, and we'll sort that out. Yeah, contents pages aren't included. Also, am I right thinking the tables, graphs, images with written text that you didn't write yourself are not included in the word count? They're according to that document, they're not counted. But make sure that you're not just pasting things in that you expect an assessor to read and take as part of your answer. It's your analysis around it. It's the prose. It's the narrative you write around the image of the table, really, that the assessor wants to look at. So that's where your answer's got to rest. Yeah, that's where it needs to be. Okay, good. Getting loads of good questions here. Let's have a look. Katie says, thank you, very useful. Georgina says, it has been very useful. We'll apply this approach when structuring my sentences and reread them before moving on to the next point to ensure I am not using unnecessary words or applied wording that assessor would know. Exactly. So always good to have somebody else read your work. If you've got anyone else and read it, and ask them to look for these things. I've repeated myself anywhere because sometimes it's hard to check your own work. Joanne says, what about when they say 10% EG DVP? Yep, that's a good question. So 10% easing, that's called, that you heard that referred to, 10% easing. So you've got, so we can go over by 6. So yes, exactly right, Joanne. You've got 1,600 words, got 10% easing, so you can go over by 160 words. That's correct. And what it also means is you can't have less than 90% of that word count. So the 10% goes the other way, it's plus or minus. So if, for example, you had, what's that, 1,539 words, no, it's not 1,439 words, you've haven't satisfied the word count criteria to the same effect. Okay, the assessor's going to look at it and think that person's question can't have been answered in enough depth in only 90% of the word counts. They don't read it. So yeah, make sure you A lot of people don't have that problem though. Writing too few words. Yeah, Stephanie's with you on that. I'm passed. Okay, great. She got passed. Yes. Right, we've got that. What's your email? I'll forward it from Lynn. Yeah, if you just use the online facilitators email address and put for my attention, I'll pick it up. That'll be fine. No problem, Cyrene. Glad to have you here. Chidu says thank you, Chidi. There you go, Joanne, Stephanie in the chat. Good. Thanks, Nithya. Emma says, very helpful session. Thank you, Gary. Fully expecting to get a referral on CHR. Can I contact you for help if this does happen? Yeah, use the online facilitators email address. I check it on a Friday. I've got a team of facilitators checking it through the rest of the week. We'll help you out. I'm going to stop recording as I said I was going to before. So if you watch the recording, hope you enjoyed it. Come to the next session. Keep an eye on the events calendar in the community. I'll post more events there.